What is going on, guys? Just been driving all day. This is already about to turn into a Faces of Death video instead of a Q&A video. Just anytime I got longer drives, it's just a fun way to pass the time, I think. So I'm going to answer all the questions I can that I remembered. I'm sure I missed a couple, but I got a bunch of them this time around. So the first one I got was, hey Mac, where you going, man? So I had to drive. I live on the eastern shore of Maryland, and I had to drive to shit-ass third world country dystopian just horror show Baltimore to go to my doctor's appointment to get a second opinion on my knee. So I know any of my friends in real life that are watching this, everybody knows that I had surgery on my knee like 2 years ago. I had to get a bunch of cadaver transplants put in, and this get a bone graft, get some other stuff done. And I was hoping that would be my last serious surgery for a while, but I basically need the exact same thing in my other knee, and the damage inside of there is actually a little bit worse. So I needed to get a second opinion on it. Not because I really wanted to, but it's just kind of stipulations of my insurance and stuff like that. So it's kind of annoying that this was the doctor that got selected, but whatever. I don't know exactly what their verdict is because I have to wait like a week to get the report back, and insurance in America is ridiculous. But so that's where I was going. This probably could have been handled via a phone call instead of me having to drive 2.5 hours there and then get stuck in a car accident on the Bay Bridge, which was awful enough, but then getting out of Baltimore literally looks like Escape from LA too. So that'd probably be an upgrade. That place is such a shithole. But okay, anyway, on to actual training questions and other questions and stuff. So going through a little speed round of some of the shorter ones I saw, I got asked ribeye or porterhouse. Ribeye, 100%. You just can't beat the marbling on a good ribeye, and there's so much, I don't know, there's so many different ways you can cook it, sear it, reverse sear it. I don't know. It's hard to mess it up too, but I really, you cannot, there's nothing more delicious than a really good marbled fresh ribeye, I think. Next question was like something, I'm gonna fuck all these up. The next question was asking about a bourbon, like just what bourbon kind of flies under the radar for most people. I would have said the Henry McKenna single barrel age, whatever it's called. I've been drinking that stuff for years, and some asshole hipster bourbon rating website made it like the #1 bourbon of the year this year or some shit, and now it's like this surge of just hipsters that like every liquor store around me, I ask if they have, and they said, Kyle just came and bought a whole case of them and left, and he asked when we're getting the next one in, and bourbon's impossible to find now. What did I pick up not too long ago? It was pretty good. Oh, pretty cheap, very, very tasty, very smooth is Larceny is the name of it. It's not bad. I really hate bourbons that have the really like construction papery aftertaste. I don't like that really like leathery taste. A lot of people really like that kind of resonancy, leathery kind of afterburn you get. I think a really good example of it is like a Jim Beam, Jack Daniels kind of stuff. It's not super smooth, and you just get that just awful like I don't even know how you explain it. I just always imagine like dry orange construction paper rubbing on the back of my tongue, and I hate that. So Larceny doesn't have that at all. Booker's, what's the name of it? It's the one, it's not the regular bottle of Booker's, it's the one that costs like $80 to $90 a bottle. It comes in like a little wooden box, a little glass sliding case on front of it. I got that the other day because I'd never had it before, and that was pretty solid too. But best bang for your buck, flies under the radar. I'd really have to say Larceny. It's under $30 a bottle, and it's super, super smooth and doesn't have that crap ass tongue jank aftertaste. Alright, so some of the training questions that I remember that I saw today. So what are my favorite grip exercises? Not necessarily the ones that I think are the most effective, but which ones do I like doing the most? I'm going to answer this in 2 tiers. My just kind of my favorite grip exercises, and then I think the ones that kind of transfer the most. Since I am a big fan of, you got to keep in mind just like transferring your grip exercise, transferring all your exercises into getting more out of your power lifts and getting the biggest total you can on the platform. You got to keep in mind exactly what you're doing on the platform and why you need grip strength. You're basically only going to be able to deadlift whatever you can hold on to long enough to complete a lift. Like if you can lift 1,000 pounds off the ground to your knees, but you drop it, it doesn't. You don't get half points for half scoring a shot. So you just got to look at like most meets and stuff when you're doing a deadlift. It's only a couple of seconds. If I were to make a conservative guesstimate, if you're probably somewhere in like the 6 to 8 second area if you have a judge giving pretty strict down commands. So with that in mind, I think time should be a big factor in deadlift and grip training to transfer over to the deadlift. But for my own personal favorite ones, I really like double overhand fat bar deadlifts. So I'll either do those for something like a 3 to a 5 rep max, like literally the most weight I can hold on like a 2.5 to 3 inch fat bar. The most weight I can hold, pick up, put back down without losing my grip 3 to 5 times, like actually finding a legitimate rep max on it. Or I really like just like picking a weight and then going for a set time. So like having a weight where I'm trying to find something like a 30-second max, and then a 20-second max, 10-second max, something like that. And then sometimes I'll even go up to like a 6-second max. Like I said, I treat my deadlifts with the mentality as I'm trying to pick the shit up as fast as I can and get it over with as quickly as possible. So I like to train my grip like that too. Some of the other ones I like doing are plate pinches. So you take like 10-pound plates, pick up 4 or 5 of them at a time. I really like doing those just for like picks and then holds for like, I don't really like doing those for failure because I think they're a little bit more technical than some of the other grip training stuff, because you got to keep a really weird pressure on the plates to keep them from sliding out. And then make sure if you're going to do those, always do them with the smooth sides facing out, just to make it even harder for no reason. Actually, I think there's a lot of carryover to being able to pinch well. Really realistically, just what, any kind of grip exercise you like doing that's going to mimic the amount of time you're holding onto the bar, or just just kind of your own style of setting up. Another one, I've posted videos of it before and everybody thinks I'm just bullshitting around, but grabbing like a 45-pound plate, picking it up in the air, flip it end over end, catch it. I get a lot of carryover out of that because I'm trying to get down to the bar fast, get my hands around the bar as fast as I can, and then pull as fast as I can. So being able to just get my hands in contact with the bar and generate just as much force as I possibly can, that makes me able to get set up faster. So I think a lot of people have a lag time in the amount of time it takes them to grip the bar and squeeze as much force out of their hands as they can. And I think that's a big reason why pulling the slack out of the bar helps people, because there's a time aspect to developing maximum force. So you're trying to exert enough force to hold on to the bar, but going from relaxed to that amount of force in the heaviest thing you can possibly pick up, there's definitely a lag time that I think can be helpful like if you work on kind of increasing the speed to which you can get to maximum force of your hand around the bar. So I love those plate flips and catches. I'll do hex head dumbbell flips and catches too. Love those too. So yeah, just anything where you're working on any kind of isometric hold or any kind of dynamic grip stuff. I pretty much love any of that stuff. I really enjoy grip training. Also too, I think Iron Mind sells this set of these things called expand your hand bands, where you can actually work on like finger extension. It's like a big thick rubber band wraps around your fingers and you just like spread your hands. I think there's another piece of equipment called the spider web, something like that. That's another really good one. You just shove your fingers in it and then spread them out as hard and as fast as you can. And that's a really good one. What were some of the other ones? God damn it, I knew I was going to forget this. Damn, I'm getting old, man. I really can't remember what any of the other ones were. Oh, another good one it was, so with me coaching other people and being a big fan of conjugate training and like utilizing all of Westside's principles and everything, do I take the people that I coach and immediately dump them into a conjugate Westside, some kind of like concurrent conjugate periodization, something like that, where they're doing all kinds of different stuff and speed work and max effort work and all the extra accessory stuff. Not all the time. It just depends on the person. It really does. A lot of times I'll start people out just something super basic and like kind of like a daily undulating periodization split. I feel like that is the absolute easiest way to start guessing how much volume they can handle, first of all. So I mean, you can figure out like a minimum amount of sets they can handle per week and kind of get an idea of what their I-Knoll is, just like kind of a level of intensity that doesn't burn them out. With daily undulating periodization, it's very straightforward because you're basically just doing the lifts. So also in like kind of some initial phases of training, and I mean like the first up to like 3 months or so, just kind of cycling through some different assistance exercises for a couple weeks at a time and just seeing what transfers, what doesn't. I think DUP is a great place to start for building people up into some kind of like a more of like a conjugate, really working on like specific qualities of maximal strength individually and stuff kind of plan that I'm really a big fan of, and I think it works great for everybody that knows how to set it up. But normally, especially if it's somebody new, like somebody brand new to training, I'll normally try to get them doing each of the movements 2 or 3 times a week. And when I say that, I'm not always talking about, they're not always bench pressing 3 times a week with like their competition grip pauses and stuff like that. They're not necessarily squatting 3 times a week to like competition depth only using a power bar or a squat bar or whatever. It'll be some kind of variation thrown in there somewhere. Like I like having kind of like a volume bench day and then a strength bench day, and then something more along the lines of like an accessory kind of thing where their pressing movement for their initial pressing movement for that day might be something like dumbbell presses or some other kind of assistant stuff to work on some upper body, shoulder stability, whatever the hell they need to work on kind of stuff. So there was another question. I'm going to totally fuck this one up too. There's another question on using how I would implement conjugate training to work on some like a cyclist, somebody that does competitive road races. I think that was your question, man. I really don't remember. But anyway, so if I were going to use some kind of conjugate sequence for something like that, like a cyclical sport where obviously it's much different than powerlifting, and in a way it's I mean like cycling sports are similar in a way too, but I'll get to that in a second. But like so it's a cyclical sport where instead of worrying about the maximum amount of force and power you can generate in one go under the bar as fast as you can, as hard as you can for one rep to lift the most weight possible, now we're focusing on the highest average force and power output you can have over a much longer period of time. So keeping that in mind, I think you can really break it down just like you break down a strength sport, just like you break down any team sports or anything like that. So you know the goal is to increase that power output and then to be able to sustain an increased power output for a longer period of time. So I think you can still break up days where you have like kind of harder, a little bit higher intensity, shorter biking days. You can have a little bit longer ones that are kind of more close to like race pace, maybe pushing that a little bit, not necessarily race distance, but maybe still working on like similar times or more like kind of paced intervals and stuff like that. Really the biggest thing is before the start of the program, some kind of movement analysis. I honestly don't know what you use for cycling, but even some of the functional movement screen stuff like an overhead squat, you'll be able to see like ankle deficiencies or any kind of hip instability stuff, like whatever the hell. So I just think doing some kind of assessment first to diagnose, make sure all the movement's okay, and then just being able to long-term plan out some kind of cycling program with conjugate training. I think it's still possible. I mean, I'm rambling a little bit here. I'm not. That's so out of my wheelhouse. But if I had the opportunity to work with somebody that was a serious cyclist, that's exactly how I would set it up. We'd have we'd still have strength training days working on just like hip stuff, calf stuff, knee stuff, just any kind of prehabilitation stuff, any kind of, just kind of taking care of any imbalances that we found in some kind of assessments or anything. But if I were to start off somebody that was like kind of new to it, I would definitely have a max power output day and then a pace day, and just kind of alternate back and forth between that. But honest to God, that would just be me guessing on how exactly we would make that work, and it just kind of it'd be just kind of like plugging stuff in, see what works, see what doesn't, and then you can always increase the frequency from there. But me personally, I'm of the mindset that you want to do like the minimum amount of work, exert the least amount of energy and spend the least amount of time and still get some kind of positive result out of it. That's perfect. That is a perfect program. So I just kind of work, start with the assessment and kind of work forwards from there as slow as possible with something like that. But that's also how I handle a lot of my anyone I'm making programs for. That's how I handle my own programming, just looking for that minimal effective volume and just kind of taking it from there and trying not to do too much more than that too often anyway. Let me think. Dude, I had way too many concussions playing football. My short-term memory has been shit here lately. That was another question. So I didn't really understand the context of the question too much, but I think I get where he was going with it. But like handling being competitive with a TBI. So this is interesting because I think there's a lot of people walking around that had a bunch of little micro traumas when they were playing sports, and I think a lot of us are carrying around a little bit of extra stuff that got all smashed up inside of our brains. I played football for 10 years and I had 4 diagnosed concussions, and I wouldn't be surprised if I had a dozen other ones that weren't. But there's all kind of interesting stuff on how to kind of recondition yourself, but that's more kind of early on with the concussion symptoms when they're setting in and stuff. It's a really interesting topic because I don't think there's really too much research, or there's not a whole lot about, well, number one, you can't diagnose like CTEs while someone's still alive right now, but there's really not a whole lot of research on just dealing with the like 10 plus year after effects of a TBI, or even medium term stuff after it initially happens. There's all kinds of neat information on working with like eye tracking software and stuff, and also using like bigger complex movement, like working on like complex motor skills, like doing I know there's this one clinic up in New York City, I want to say, where there are progressions for everything they have people do, like younger athletes or anyone that kind of got knocked silly doing something, is they try to get them into heavy Olympic weightlifting movements, because that is a very complex motor task, a lot of complex stuff going on, as well as just kind of like I mentioned, some of the eye tracking stuff, and then just kind of doing some of the short-term stuff. And they've seen a lot of really neat stuff with how people have been recovering from just the acute concussion symptoms a lot better than people that aren't doing more complex motor tasks and everything. All right, I think that's it. If I see any other ones I didn't get to, I'll make another video. It's 18 minutes long. I've been driving all goddamn day. But all right, ask some more if you got any more, and I'll answer them. Thanks.